Beautiful.
Hey, morning, everybody. Looks like we have a critical mass of people. Make sure, can people hear me? Wave your head,
Yes.
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 Thank thank you. Thank you, Darren, for the slight nod there. Appreciate it. Making sure nobody has a virtual background and you're actually out snow plowing right now.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Wonderful.
I know this is a public meeting, but I will state for the record that Zoom has ruined snow days. So, right. Put a bill in to ban Zoom on snow days.
Hello, Mr. Majority Leader.
Senator Duff, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, good.
And I was like, we're clairvoyant. We knew this was going to happen, this storm, so we did it by Zoom
That's right.
to the
Got
chagrin
it.
of everybody else. So,
I don't know how many people follow eWeather, but I go to eWeather for my weather. He's somebody who lives in the Connecticut River Valley and does weather on Twitter or on X, whatever you want to call it, social media. So,
yeah.
Bob, I think we could probably get started. I'm guessing I've heard from a couple folks who aren't going to join us just because the mornings have been disrupted for one reason
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for getting here. I see Trent is online. Trent has done the work of getting information from all you guys and pulling it together. And I know he just sent an updated report to everybody. Um, we can certainly go through the report if folks would prefer, or if folks want to raise their hand and offer comment on what has been submitted collectively by the group. We can do it that way as well too, since I'm confident all of you can read and can read the report on your own. More importantly, is if you have thoughts on them to provide feedback. We did request some vehicles in advance of us having this discussion. We did raise some vehicles for some of these items to be considered and debated in committees. So we do have placeholders. Again, we operate in such a way that it's kind of more consensus and we don't take up and down votes, but we also know that what might get reported doesn't necessarily reflect the sentiments or opinions of everybody on the group, but it gives us an opportunity to debate them through a regular process and get feedback on what may be a good idea or what might be a less than good idea. And I'm sure there are people out there who will have opinions one way or another on what gets reported out. So, Senator Duff, I don't know if you want to offer any comments.
Thanks, Jason. No, I think I'm good. I think that was a good summary, so we just get right into it if you want.
Yeah. Do folks want me to pull up kind of the report so folks can see it and then people can offer comment? Um, I have way too many windows open. Hold on. Hey, that's not it. That's not it. There it is. What I'll do is just take us to the kind of the recommendations section here. Um, and certainly the Department of Housing might have an opinion on this one. I don't know. But the first one was around data collection and data reporting. And since you're here and smiling, Commissioner, feel free to opine. Or if you'd like to withhold your thunder until a public hearing or something, you can do that as well. So no pressure.
I would
No.
just say for the record, the commissioner is always smiling generally. So,
You know, um, thank you, Representative Rojas and Senator. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, there are two options. One is to smile and one is to cry. So I decided to smile.
Save your crying for the snow cleanup.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Um, we couple just to make it simple, and we can go ahead and won't make comments on every single recommendation, but overall. And my question overall is, do we want to make it easier for the towns, or do we want to keep it complicated and add more stuff to it? Because we have to go over and just give us a simple example is um, reducing the amount of time that the OH has to review applications to less than 90 days where we hardly have enough time to be able to respond to that. But I mean, if the intention is to make it easier for the towns and for the state, because we get trapped into doing a lot of work in trying to respond to every category and trying to get information from every different places when we don't have enough staff. I would think that reducing the threshold, the number, instead of the 10% to make it easier for the towns, it'll be more effective than going category by category and trying to find informations on all different areas of housing. That will be kind of accomplishing more than having to go through every processes that is put it in here.
Yeah, so you're on this is the one you were speaking to just now, just to be clear. We had started off with the data reporting one, but you leapfrog to where you definitely have an opinion.
I mean, overall, I think they did.
Yeah.
I just went instead of going one by one.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
it just, for us, will be a lot of time invested into each category. And how do we get that information also? And the time that we are going to invest. But what's the overall goal is basically what I'm asking, right? Is the overall goal is to make it easier for towns, then lower the threshold. If the overall goal is to build more affordable housing, as we are doing and trying to continue on with the governor's support of building more housing, that's kind of a different things. And then we have to go into the 830G, and then we also have these plans that are going to be working with the towns. So which direction we want to keep the agency moving towards? Because at the end of the day, we don't have a lot of staff and time. So I'm on the production side and trying to do more. So Michael, I don't know if you want to add anything. I have Michael Santoro here from my staff,
Sure.
and he's the one actually that gets stuck with all this, not me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, I support the Commissioner's position rather than each one of these individual recommendations. When you look at the theme of the recommendations, it simply appears to be to make it easier for a town to exempt themselves from 830G. Our position is we need more housing. None of these recommendations do anything to help us promote the creation of new housing opportunities. In particular, I think the Commissioner's 100% right. We use all 90 days now. If you were to further complicate what we count, how we have to count it, giving us less than 90 days, it is even more difficult. I would counter, if you're going to add all these new categories, give me more time. So just overall, again, I agree with my Commissioner. If the theme is make it easier for towns to avoid 830G, just lower the threshold. That's about all I can say. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a perspective about making it easier for town, and I've said this myself too, right? What is it's 8-30G a way to incent communities to change behavior? I think that's actually the approach that underlies some of the suggestions here. It's not about so much making it easier for towns as much as it making it more of an incentive for them to do X or Y around allowing for more development. But your point is well taken. None of these are actually addressing production, right? They're two kind of separate buckets that we're talking about here. But no, the kind of the motivation is to try, based on what we've heard from towns, right, is to provide some more carrots, right, for them to change behavior. And I think that's what's reflected in some of these recommendations, and less so about just making it easier to reach a moratorium, although the outcome might be the same. Francis, you had your, oh, sorry, Michael, did you have another comment or? No, good. Francis, I think you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate Michael's and the commissioner's comments. On the 90 days and the complexity of determining whether a town or municipality qualifies for a moratorium, I can understand that it's complex, but the fact that it's a very public decision to apply for a moratorium can create a perverse incentive for a flood of applications to come in. And maybe it's not the 90 days, maybe it's being able to do a pre-application review off as land use applicants often do with planning and zoning commissions, right? Having that same potential at the state level, maybe it needs to be statutory, maybe not, but just to check all the math before a town goes in for that application. And I think that might in part get to the first recommendation, which is we don't have a really good handle on tracking all of the eligible, I mean, towns do reports, but everything still needs to be verified, right? I mean, we have the appeals list, but the fact that everything needs to be verified suggests that this list is not authoritative enough for me. On the other things, some of which came from me, full disclosure, they're not about um, lowering the threshold percentage. They're recognition that we need a greater variety of housing options in the state, and adding more tiers at the top and bottom just reflects the reality that we do have a need for deeply affordable housing, which is not currently accounted for under 830G. At least it's not incentivized. And we also have a need for workforce housing above the 80%, especially given that construction costs have escalated so much. What you're seeing built in parts of the state is not 100% or 120%, it's 300 and 400% median income housing. So even the lower income brackets that are above 830G probably need some incentive at the state level. So it's not really reducing the 10%, it's just providing more paths to get there that may respond to market need.
Can I just comment on that, Francis, and just ask you a question on that? Because we keep having the same conversation as to what counts towards 8-30G, which is fine. I think that debate's a healthy debate to have. However, if we're not building more housing, we're just counting already what's there in the denominator. How does that help to actually move the ball forward and to make sure that people have housing rather than just saying we're counting something that's already there, but we're not actually doing anything that's increasing the denominator?
That's a good question. And I think part of the problem is just the financing gap is so large, right? We know there's a need for 100%, 120% AMI housing, but right now a municipality doesn't get credit for building that. Yes, the governor, the administration has been fantastic in DOH in the Build CT program, right? Capitalizing lenders to help build housing. But right now, our state's affordable housing law doesn't recognize these needs at all.
But why
So,
why do I need to have why do I need to have housing that's already there to say that it's affordable? If you're, I'm assuming you're a capitalist
Mhm.
kind of guy, and if the housing is the housing and the price is the price, why do I have to consider that affordable if it's not necessarily affordable? It's just affordable because it's affordable, but it's not 8-30G affordable. Why do I have to count that as housing when we should be the real place where we need to have more subsidized housing is where it's the larger developments where that will not on its own be affordable, that we have to kind of ensure that some of that is affordable.
Mhm.
But the garage apartment or somebody's in-law apartment could be affordable because that's just what the market dictates. But the building over on, say, West Avenue in Norwalk is going to have 10% affordable because we mandate that, because otherwise it would be 100% market rate. But we need to step in and say that needs to be 10% affordable. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So if we're looking at a municipality, right, that's using inclusionary zoning and essentially a private cross subsidy, right, from the market rate units to the affordable units, right now we have a couple of bins you can put it in, right? It's 40, 60, 80% ownership or rental units, various sizes. We do nothing for below or above that. And we hold seniors flat to 1/2 HUE point, right? So if the goal is to incentivize municipalities to implement regulations such as inclusionary zoning, and you only provide them limited options, well, you're going to get a constrained output. And flexibilizing that could lead to them saying, you know what? Okay, it's 10% at 60/80%, but maybe it's 15% at 100/120%, for which there is also a need in which the market may not bear right now.
Yeah, got it. I'm not sure I understand that answer, but my question is still my question, and I still think that we don't need to call something affordable that's already affordable on its own. We need to make affordable in places that it wouldn't be normally affordable. So, all right, thank you. Thank you, Jason.
No, no, thank you both. I have to go check, Francis, if flexibilizing is a word. I'm not sure. Uh, I think everybody was looking it up quickly while you guys were talking, but I'm just kidding. All right. No, but thank you both. Any other comments? Just going back up to the top, there was obviously the data collection piece. And I know there are lists out there, but there are questions about how valuable that information is or how accessible it is. We went into a little bit about the key points, the tiers. It was part of the discussion that we were just having right now, and I'm going between shared screens. So I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody's raised hand. I don't think I am. But I'll just, yeah, Dave.
Yeah, I did have some comments which I sent over to Trent last week, but I'll reiterate them now. My comments are fairly technical in nature, just from my experience of working on 830G calculations. There are some things in here. I thought overall these changes were pretty good, but there were a couple of things that I felt were unaddressed in it that I'd like to open up to the group for thought. The first one was the inclusion of SRO units made sense to me theoretically, but I think you want to be careful because SROs are a type of unit that typically are service oriented. They're usually geared towards residents who are coming out of homelessness and need a high level of supportive services. And you'd want to be careful about not incentivizing non-service oriented SRO units, meaning just a developer providing a room for people. And that may not be allowed by zoning and building codes in some places, but you wouldn't want to create the possibility of incentivizing that. So I would tighten up the definition of what a SRO is in this. Secondly, I've pointed out before that the calculation of what's in the numerator is inconsistent in that we allow towns to calculate units that are, let's say, CHFA assisted by a CHFA loan. How under the, I guess, the theory that those units, those residents met an income guideline of some kind when they took out that loan, but we don't allow towns to count units that are naturally occurring affordable housing, which are just by the nature of the rent levels that they're at, affordable to people. And to me, that's always felt very inconsistent. The rationale that I've always heard about why not to count naturally occurring affordable housing units is because they might become non-affordable. But the same could be said about CHFA financed units. As soon as the person sells the house, that unit is no longer affordable. So I still have never really understood why we don't count naturally occurring affordable housing units. And then lastly, we also, in the numerator side, allow assisted housing units, but we don't, as far as I understand, we don't require those to meet any kind of an income guideline. So you could theoretically have an assisted housing unit at 120% AMI, and it would count if it's deed restricted for a certain amount of time. So I would change it to restrict assisted housing to 80% of AMI or less.
Sorry, I was trying to write down notes, even knowing that this is being recorded, so I probably don't need to write down those notes. But no, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did send Trent an email so that
yeah, got it.
You can get
them. It was still my habit to try to take notes while people are talking. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Any comments or reactions to David's feedback, which is appreciated, David. Thank you.
Yep. No, good point.
Francis.
Just
Sorry, Commissioner.
trying to think about, and this is probably more for Michael to think about on the how can you track those the current natural occurring affordable housing, because anybody can lower the cost. How do you track that? I mean, the whole tracking of 830G and units that are below 80% of AMI because we have deed restrictions. And that's how we track those. So that would be very difficult. And then on the 100 and 120%, although we are assisting those units because we recognize that affordability is an issue at all income levels, still, as you see the data, the ones that are basically suffering, the population that is underserved are those at 50% and below of the area median income. And we at the state, we have to recognize that that's where our dollars probably are going to help more of our residents because those are the workforce. I usually hear people saying the workforce, but they're referring to 80% and above to 120% of AMI. But our workforce, really, our minimum wages, the majority are on those units between 50% and below. So just some point to take in consideration, and maybe Michael, you have something else to add?
Yeah, if I may, thank you, Commissioner, and to you, Representative Rojas. Not to beat a dead horse, but the 10% list is simply an eligibility threshold. Back when 830G was first passed, we as a department were asked, what can you count to establish a threshold? Those were the items that we could readily count on a regular basis, have justifiable and verifiable information. It is not a demonstration of need or a demonstration of a community which is meeting its needs. 10% is not a needs number. 10% is simply an eligibility threshold. So we count CHFA mortgages because we can. We count rental assistance certificates because we can. We count assisted housing because we can. If you want to add things to be counted again, you're simply moving the needle for the threshold. Right? So this is outside of a moratorium. This is really the 10% exempt list, which goes back to both the commissioner and my original comments were, if the goal is simply to make it easier for a community to avoid 830G, don't count more stuff, just lower the threshold.
Thank you. Michael, Commissioner, I didn't know if you had any follow-up to his or no? Okay. Francis.
Yeah, thank you. In response to David's point about counting, for instance, subsidized mortgages, he's 100% correct. And when you actually look at the products that are counted, the CHFA and USDA mortgages, in some cases, yes, they are income verified. Sometimes the income limits are far in excess of 100% of the median income, right? So under 8-30G, we're saying 60/80. Well, I just ran the numbers in the town of Ashford. The limit's 150% of median income, right? So they're not even affordable housing. It's just that we have, because we can count it, we count it as though it were affordable, but it's not actually a reflection on its affordability. And these products are not available statewide. So we've created a counting system that counts certain things in certain places, but in other places where they're not available, those options are not on the table. So, I think that's probably a larger conversation about whether what we count makes sense. But from my perspective, I don't see the rationale behind counting something just because we can.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, Francis. Back to David.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one more comment in response to the whole. I think Mike Santoro's comments were very instructive. And one of the things that I've looked at is if you just look at a comparison of the number of towns that are exempt from 830G in 2002, which is the furthest back I could find available, and you compare that to today, the number of towns that are exempt has actually gone down. It was 31 towns in 2002. It's now 28. So it seems to me like the point of 830G originally was to encourage towns to become compliant. outside of the moratorium system. The moratorium system was a way to move towards compliance, but it doesn't seem like the regulation is getting more towns compliant. If anything, fewer towns are compliant now than they used to be.
My quick reaction, we'll go to Mike. I don't know that the intent was to of 8-30G as much was to get towns to comply as much as it was just a builder's remedy, right? Which I think serves maybe as a perceived incentive, right? We want to get away from these, developers getting around our systems and going to court. But that was the intent, was to provide a remedy to the builder, not so much to provide an incentive to the town. But I think it's become that in some ways. But Mike, go ahead. Sorry.
Correct, Representative. And again, not to beat a dead horse, 10% is not a goal or a threshold for any community. It is not a demonstration of need. And the new list, effective March 1st, came out. We're back to 31.
Oh, okay. Good.
I just want to note that Senator Rahman and Representative Scott have joined us. No pressure to do anything. Just want to acknowledge that they had arrived. So.
We'll do our usual song when people come on.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome.
We want everyone to feel loved. Well, thank you for the robust discussion on all these things. Certainly more to come. I'll go back to the report to see if there are additional comments. I know we've been bouncing around a little bit, but we're actually touching on just about everything. Application and review. We heard robustly from the commissioner about how she really feels about that. SROs. David, I just did have one question. I mean, I know SROs often end up serving the population that they're noted, but is there an additional caution about people who are not in need of support services of one kind or another having access to SROs? Oh, MD, I'm muting. I'll mute him. There we go.
I'm just not very familiar with SRO units not serving that population in this state. Maybe in a very urban location like New York City, you might see SRO units serving students, for example, but I don't think you see a lot of that in Connecticut. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I'm wondering Rebecca, go ahead. You might be better informed than I am. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it happens in this state, but there are national firms that are pitching this more frequently, and it is not about supportive services at all. It's actually about existing units, having owners be able to earn some income through rental of rooms, and they're often pitched at like weekly rentals or monthly rentals as an affordable housing option for the renter, but also an income producer for the owner. And so it is something that is still at a small scale, but increasingly prevalent around the country.
Yeah, I think in terms of ideas of solutions, I've seen a lot of these micro unit concepts, right? Where there's a lot of individual bedrooms and shared common spaces of kitchens and bathrooms and those types of things. I think very different to how we understand housing, right? And certainly an evolution from what originally perhaps single room occupancy was in the past, what it became in terms of support services. But is there a different kind of opportunity for rethinking SROs? So, Francis.
Yeah, this is a historic form of housing, and SROs were once prevalent in Connecticut, as in many other places. We were more of a frontier state. They did provide workforce housing for people who were moving in before they secured their own full housing unit. I think there are two things. One, I have seen some being built in New Haven. Two, when you look at 830G, right, it's a big lever on municipalities to update their local zoning ordinances. And most municipalities in Connecticut don't even allow SROs, right? So if you don't allow it, you're not going to see it. And part of flexibilizing, right, this here is if you recognize it in state law, it sends a clear message to municipalities, right? You should allow property owners to provide a range of housing options, especially in a state where we are seeking to draw workers from other states who may not have families yet, who may be new to Connecticut, may not want to buy a home or sign a long-term lease. And also in recognition of the fact that about 2/3 of households in Connecticut are one or two people, right? We have a lot of single-person households for whom conventional housing product may not just be financially unsustainable. It's more than they want. It's overkill.
Cool. Thank you. Any additional comments on that one? Go back to the report. Getting good at switching back and forth here. There was another recommendation about a correction to something that already exists in law. So that's what the Correcting the Middle Housing Key Point Award recommendation is. And then I think that brings us to the end of our lists. I don't know if there are additional comments or if, I don't know, do we like take a vote on this thing, or do we just submit kind of a report and capture people's dissension and general support for at least exploring these things, not so much that everybody loves it and endorses these and is going to co-sponsor them type of thing. But
Just a report.
yeah.
The
All right.
plan would follow,
I would suggest
right?
just accepting the report.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
we could just
Brian,
move it
one more
forward.
time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just accept the report, that then people
Yeah.
can make their own viewpoints known at a public hearing or in the future.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you. I'm going to rule by fiat that we accept the report.
I'll make a
All right.
motion.
All those in favor of making a fiat here? Jason, the benevolent dictator.
All right. I think I guess I can go to
I
the
agree.
agenda. Oh, okay. Trent, is there anything else you need us to do so I don't mess this up in any way?
No, we're all set. Just if anyone has any points from today or other opinions they would like included at the end of the report, just send those over to me and we can update it in the system so that those are reflected.
All right. Well, everyone, it's time to get dressed and go clean your driveways. And then we'll see everybody I am wearing pants for the record, but we'll see everybody back in the office tomorrow or later this week.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.